Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's a chilly day. Thomas Jefferson reports it's 30 degrees. The humidity is 41% and the wind is at 7 miles an hour. But because this road is sort of dug into the landscape, and especially when the trees are full, it doesn't catch the wind. And I don't have any adequate electronic device to protect me from the wind because I'm just holding a phone in my left hand while I walk. I don't have an ensemble. I am the ensemble. So that's that. The Democrats seem to be thinking aloud about where they're going and what strategy they're going to follow. So far, their strategy has been to stick their thumb in their mouth and sit in a corner and passively accept it as inevitable. And I think that's disgraceful. Even when we had the opportunity to highlight how unsatisfactory was the effort to keep the government open, we sort of missed opportunities there. And we should be saying the faults that we observe of magnificent proportions are no accident when you put people who have little or no experience and an ideology and game plan, which is to destroy the government. And when they try to do exactly that, we can't stand there and be silent. Now, the New York Times today has an excellent editorial by Janelle Bowie. I've never heard her name said, so I may have it wrong. Bouye. And it's beautifully written, as stories in the Times often are. And the subtext, if I remember it right, is don't surrender and call it cooperation, And you can't propitiate an evil God. And some may think that's an exaggeration, but Trump and company do think they're godlike. So their imaginary friend is imbuing them with the wisdom and insight, and what they're doing is blessed from above. Well, that's nonsense. But the Republicans seem to get a clear rein on what they're doing because the Democrats pussyfoot around, It's hard to imagine that part of the debate after the election is, should Dems show their faith more? No, they should not show their faith more. If the Dems trot out a Christian or religious pose, wouldn't you discount it if religion mattered to you? And if you're a Dem, wouldn't you be offended at the manipulation? Because you can't stand up and say you're a Christian and not implicitly or expressly embrace the anti-abortion movement. How do you do that? So you look, craven. You are craven. I mean, no less than Aristotle and other philosophers have spoken about how to manipulate religion to get the kind of order and followership you want and need to be in charge. So is that what the Dems are doing? They're going to be Republican light. For my money, there's not a single candidate who says, oh, my religion informs me and this is how, and I don't want to hear that. Because I believe that we should have a separation of church and state. And when I was a youngster, Jack Kennedy had to reassure the nation that he would not substitute any religious tenet he had for his civic position as president if elected. And this reassured people. Now, we have a large contingency who believe exactly the opposite, and Democrats run to the hills seeking ways to be more Republican? Do they not understand what the debate is in America? I'm not sure they do. I think there is a yellow streak that runs through our elected officials across the nation, and they don't have the nerve to stand for the propositions that are so critical to this republic and maintaining it as a democracy. So, what should we be doing? Well, Bowie says, and she says it in various ways. It's a very well considered article. Oppose and show resolve in your opposition. The opposition has and will continue to have examples of things that discount the ability or desire of Republicans to do the wrong things they want to do. We have to be there. Now, there's another contingent of Democrats that's reported are thinking, and they're saying that instead of being defeatist as they were after the election, they plan to do something. Wait for it. It's hard to believe how easily the Democrats lose a line of argument and an ability to fight. I suppose the frustrating thing about enduring in a world of conflict, which is where we are now, nation states resolving to do things that were inconceivable 10 years ago, maybe, in terms of being effective, not in terms of being discussed, maybe. And here in America, it's like Trump pulled the ripcord on a sickening belief in America that it's okay to discriminate. We don't have to be just to each other. We don't want any more immigrants. We don't even want to deal with other nation states except to punish them if they try to compete with our domestic industry. This is not a plan for the future. This is not a plan in a world that shrinks every day. But does seem to be the plan that Trump has. Now, what do we have going for us? Well, it's a two-edged sword. What we have going for us are proposed nominees who mostly are against the function they're being appointed to serve. And if they were desirous of serving well, they don't have the experience, competence, ability, or will to do so. That's a prescription for disaster. Then we have these players like Musk who wants to create an America and a government in America that does not serve the people. His view is you're on your own. Now, the nation has had this kind of pure capitalism before, in which, if there's a phrase for it, it's get over it. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. This usually coming from the wealthiest with the greatest privilege, but not always, but it does come. And that's where we are. And if we are not a voice in opposition, we by our silence acquiesce to the worst and perhaps silent revolution in American history to deny the roots of our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, namely that we believed in equal justice before the law. We say it, we don't deliver it. We are anti-discrimination. We are pro-migration. We all came that way. Sure, there have to be laws and rules on how to do it, but we could spend the money to do it. We could get the resources to do it right. We could write the laws we need to write, but we don't. We could spend the funds on the buildings needed, the judges needed, the lawyers needed, create the programs. We could do this in a constructive and embracing way. But there's a hidden agenda in both parties that they don't want this issue to go away. They like it the way it is. And as a result, the nation suffers. Now, you can't disconnect the symbol system of resisting and abusing people you don't want to be part of our country. Native Americans are the best example of that. And we know, recent enough, that when Irish came and others came, that the resistance to them coming was great. So we have, as I spoke about yesterday, an extension of the notion of cognitive dissonance. We're the land of the free and the home of the brave, but we're not sure we want you here. And this conflict of contrary thoughts creates a circumstance that makes it impossible to function and therefore perhaps to govern. We are stumbling along until March, when again the parties will sit down and fight not for the country, but for a slice of the loaf of the funds coming from taxpayers across America, who often have no idea who is getting the spoils of office and what it's doing to hurt them, whether they be a child with cancer, an older disabled person, a young person who wants an education. These are the things that brought people to serve in government. These are the things that Trump and his corrupt and incompetent minions would overthrow. So, that's my comment in the pleasant cold. If we're going to have the cold, I would like to have snow so I could ski. And I think of these walks not only for the pleasure that they normally give me, but on the off chance that by toughening myself up with the cold, I could enjoy going down a mountain or two nearby, which is not the same as you West Coasters who have amazing mountains. So, but that's, I'll just have to enjoy the walk. So for now, I say goodbye to you from my cathedral of trees until tomorrow. Bye-bye.